Hey, Tony, I noticed that when we were planning this week's road trip, that you've come up with kind of a pretty cool theme for the show.
Well, Aaron, as I was digging around trying to figure out what was going on this week in rock history, I ran across a few stories of rock stars and really popular country stars trying to do good in the world, trying to use their powers for good and not evil. And so I thought that would make a great road trip theme for today because it all happened this week in rock history. So we've got 3 great stories here. We're taking a visit with Alice Cooper and then Ozzy Osbourne and Garth Brooks. It's going to be really interesting, I think.
You know what? I'm interested in Alice Cooper because one of his most famous songs is No More Mr. Nice Guy. So I'm intrigued.
Well, let's hit the road. Here we go. Maps?
Check.
Snacks?
Double check.
Tunes?
Check.
I'm Tony Stewart.
I'm Aaron Badgley.
And we are cruising the rock and roll highway in our way back music machine. Are you ready, my friend?
I sure am.
I have the feeling this is going to be the start of a great adventure.
Kind of a magical mystery tour.
Somehow I knew you were going to say that. So for our first part of the road trip here, we're going to visit the Sunshine Coast. We're going to California on November 22nd, 1991. And I always love when we get to visit California, especially, it's here, it's November. The snow hasn't hit yet, but it is getting cold.
Well, not here, but it's hit some places of Ontario, I can tell you.
Yeah, I heard about that. 20 centimeters in a few places, so that's is a little
right,
crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm getting warm already thinking about heading to California. Let's go.
Although his public persona or his stage act or whatever doesn't really show it, Alice Cooper is actually one of the nicest human beings in rock and roll, bar none.
Yeah, I've heard that. I would love to, sit down and chat with him because I've heard that from so many people. He just seems like such a nice guy. And it's totally a stage persona, but there's so many stories of him just helping out other people, but we found a really good one here. He came to the rescue of 2 of his fans, Patrick and Deanne Kelly. Their California home was about to be repossessed back in 91. Do you remember 91 way back then? I mean, that was a terrible time for homeowners, right? Interest rates were through the roof. And I remember, working with people who had lost their homes back then. It was awful. And so Patrick, though, he was a big Alice Cooper fan, and he had painted Alice Cooper's face on the house to help sell the property, which I am shocked that you would think that putting Alice Cooper on there would help sell the property, but hey, to each their own.
Heavy metal headbangers need a place to live too.
Well, that's right. So here is the best part, though, right, is word got out, and Alice Cooper, Vincent Fernier, his real name, but Alice Cooper, found out about it, and he decided to help them out. So he did a bunch of stuff, right? He signed autographs to help raise money, and it was crazy. And he ended up raising quite a bit of money for them and helped them to be able to keep their house. So that is an amazing story.
But it's funny with Alice Cooper. He always does things very privately. Did you see that picture that was circulated on the Facebook of him? I guess it was like at a food line or something. Did you ever see that?
I did. He was like serving in a soup kitchen or something, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
But he doesn't look like Alice Cooper because his makeup's not on, and he just looks like some, nice old guy who's going to help out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you look at what he's done, Tony. Like he's a president of Solid Rock, an organization which strives to help teens and children in the Phoenix area. And I don't have a problem with him picking a specific... Doesn't he live there? Or
I think he lives in Phoenix now, yeah.
Yeah. So he's... And he's an avid golfer, and he's in all these charitable golf tournaments. He's just... And I love his... I found a quotation when I was going through some research, and it said, on stage I'm one thing, but off stage I'm different. It's kind of like Bela Lugosi and Fred McMurray.
Yeah, that is such a great quote.
So I thought, yeah, okay, that fits. Yeah, that's good.
But when I was researching this story, so by selling his autographs and being attached to this whole cause, he raised $11,000 in short order and allowed the Carpenters to keep their house. So isn't that a fabulous story?
Oh, it's a great story, and it speaks to who he is, in my opinion. I don't think it's and again, I don't think he did it because it was going to sell records or whatever. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, he had no ulterior motive there at all. And I love what you wrote in the show notes today about his being inspired by the Beatles, but we should mention that too, because again, we tie a lot of things into the Beatles on this show. And do you want to read off that quote? That is fabulous.
Yeah, he said in an interview, I was 15 when the Beatles hit it big in the United States. I was at the perfect age when I saw the Beatles on TV. All of a sudden, there was another option for people my age. We could either push grocery carts at Safeway or form a band. I formed a band that played Beatles and Rolling Stones covers.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, a lot of kids got into music after Elvis and after the Beatles, and that's why we talk about them so much. But I love Alice Cooper, I have to say, and I agree with you. No More Mr. Nice Guy. What a great song, eh?
I have to tell you a story. Do you know how he got his first record contract?
I should know this. I think we talked about this perhaps on our old show.
Maybe we did, yeah.
But I can't remember. How did he get his first record contract?
So Frank Zappa had a record label.
Oh, that's right. And he showed up at the house.
Do you remember this story?
Yeah,
at 7 a.m.
That's right. He showed up at the house at 7 a.m. and just said, sign us. And Zappa didn't know what to make of them, right?
Well, Zappa comes to the door in his house coat and thought, if these guys are energetic enough to get up at 7 a.m. and rock, okay,
Well, you know what? And speaking as a musician, right? Not many musicians are up at 7 a.m., right? You're just getting home from work then usually. So
I'm sure Zappa was. So Zappa signed him to this label, and, good on Zappa for recognizing that there was talent there, right? But he
amazing talent.
Signed him.
He's got a great voice, eh? Don't you find?
Still does. His voice. I bought his last album that came out last year, and it's still as good as ever, in my opinion. I think he's great.
Oh, me too. And I noticed that we're going to talk about the singles charts today, aren't we, for this? So what were the top five singles here?
I picked different charts for each segment. So how about that?
Oh, perfect.
So the top 5 singles in 1991, I'm curious to know what you think of number 1, but I'm not going to say a word. Number 5, Canada's own Bryan Adams with Can't Stop This Thing We Started. Number 4 is Boys to Men, who are now, I guess, collecting pensions. It's hard to say goodbye to yesterday. 3, PM Dawn with Set Adrift on Memory Bliss. Number 2, my favorite, Prince and the NPG with Cream.
Oh, yeah.
Number 1, Tony, was Michael Bolton, When a Man Loves a Woman.
Now, was this would have been Bolton's mullet phase too, right? When he had the really, really long hair.
Yeah.
Do you remember Yes. Do you remember how much people loved that guy? It was crazy.
He was huge.
Yeah.
He was massive.
Now, I wasn't a Bolton fan. I've got to
I'm just going to ask what you thought of his cover. I prefer the original by Percy Sledge.
Yeah, I prefer the Percy Sledge version too. But you know what? Good on Bolton for covering a classic song, though. And
and his cover was pretty faithful. He didn't kind of, throw in stuff that really shouldn't be there. It's pretty good. I'm not a fan of the song or Bolton, but I didn't think it was a horrible version,
No, I agree with you. Now, I've got some bad news for you, Aaron, because we're sitting here in sunny California. We have to go across the pond to England, and I don't think we packed umbrellas.
Well, good thing we don't have a convertible then, eh?
That's right. We've got a sunroof in the Wayback Machine, but we've got it closed. So let's head over to England, and we are going to be checking out one of our favorite musicians on this show. This is November the 22nd, 2004 that we're going to. And of course,
I'm doing the thing with my fingers.
And we're paying a visit to Ozzy Osbourne. So here we go. Okay, so here we are, November 22nd on 2004, and Buckinghamshire, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. We are here, just parked outside Ozzy Osbourne's mansion. And, we've started to talk about Ozzy quite a bit on the show lately. Have you noticed?
And I got to be honest with you, I don't have a problem with that.
I don't either. He's always good for a story, and this is another great story. But why are we here? What happened on this night?
Well, I think since you found it, I really think that you should talk about it because it's funny and tragic. No, not tragic at all. I'm just kidding. So Ozzy basically struggled with a burglar, right?
That's right. So he struggled with a burglar who was escaping. The burglar was robbing Ozzy's mansion, and Ozzy caught him. And the burglar had grabbed jewelry worth about £2 million, if you can believe that. And Osbourne told reporters that he had grabbed this masked burglar and had him in a headlock as he tried to stop him. The burglar broke free and jumped. Listen to this, Aaron. 30 feet from a first floor window. So it's unbelievable. But a large amount of jewelry was stolen. Some of it they got back. But isn't that incredible? So Ozzy Osbourne, I can just picture it here, getting a burglar in a headlock. Didn't quite succeed, but still trying to do good to protect his home and his family.
But I think the other thing was this burglar had burgled other places in the house or neighborhood, right?
Yes, I think so. So, and Ozzy almost captured him, right?
So there you go. I mean, the $1 million question, where was Sharon?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. But
I mean, where was Sharon? She should have been on that one, right? That should have been hers.
Well, that's right. She should have been tackling the burglar, right? And
she's tougher than Ozzy, anyways. But he doesn't look like a strong guy to me. Like,
no,
when
he doesn't.
The headlock, that makes me laugh.
Oh yeah, I read this story, and as I was looking into it, I was laughing as well. But so Ozzy, doing good in a different kind of way, trying to prevent a theft. And I wonder how much of that jewelry was Sharon's and how much was his, though,
Well, okay, that's a good point, because he does wear an awful lot of, he used to anyways. Do you remember all the crosses but I tell you, the thing about Ozzy, and I'm going to see if I can connect all the stories back to the Beatles.
Okay.
He's an avid Beatle. I think I can. He's an avid Beatle collector.
Oh, is he?
And he is. And he has some really rare stuff. And honestly, this guy could have just ripped off his Beatles stuff. It'd be worth probably more than the jewelry. Because he's got stuff that McCartney's given him and Ringo. He has incredible collection of the Beatles. So.
Oh, there you go. Now I know why you like talking about Ozzy so much. That's fantastic.
Wow, now just a minute. So he does. Have you ever heard him do Imagine?
No, I've heard him do Take Me Out to the Ball Game during the 7th inning stretch. Do you remember that?
Seriously? Where was that?
Oh,
I missed that.
Which stadium do they do that at? The Cubs, right? The Chicago Cubs?
Yeah, well, they do it everywhere, but
I mean,
Cubs.
Which is the one where they get the celebrities? That's the Chicago Cubs, right?
Cubs.
Yeah, look up Ozzy Osbourne being brought in to do the Take Me Out to the Ball Game during the 7th inning stretch.
No kidding, I will, yes.
So it gets about a sentence or so in before the lyrics start getting mangled, and it is very, very funny.
Oh, poor Ozzy. I mean, they're not hard lyrics, right? Nope.
But it goes about the way that you are probably thinking it goes right now.
Oh, Ozzy. I'm going to look it up. You know what? We should put a link to that, eh?
Oh, we should, for sure. It is one of the all-time classic Take Me Out to the Ball Games from the Chicago Cubs. And
I still think one of the funniest interview clips is when he's making breakfast.
Oh,
and
gosh. Yeah. Wasn't it on fire or something?
Yes. and the interviewers, Ozzy, the stove's on fire. Making bacon and egg. No, seriously. Oh my gosh.
All right. So what chart did you pick for this time period?
Well, this one was an interesting chart. I went with albums instead of singles.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just felt like doing albums. So number 5 is an album we've talked about, and I know you're a fan of. Rod Stewart, Stardust, The Great American Songbook, Volume 3.
I love his take on the Great American Songbook, to be honest. I think he's got such a great voice for doing those kind of tunes. And I remember he took quite a bit of flack when he first started that project, but boy, he proved all the haters wrong, I think.
Well, he made them his. I mean, it's hard. I mean, they were big albums. Number 5, right? I mean, come on. Number 4 is Usher with Confessions, and I'm going to confess I've never heard the album.
I haven't either.
Hey, how was that a good segue?
That was a fantastic segue.
Thank you. Number 3 is Nelly. Suit.
Well,
Suit.
Haven't heard that one either, so.
No. And A Perfect Circle. No, wait. The band is called Emotive. I got it backwards. The band is called Emotive, and the album was called A Perfect Circle. And number 1 was one of those compilation albums, like Now 17 by various. Interesting that week, though. So this is 1991. 11 years, almost to the day of his death. John Lennon debuted at number 31 with an album called Acoustic.
Oh, wow.
Which was all acoustic. They're basically demos of some of his songs. Oddly enough, you cannot buy that album anymore, nor is it on Spotify, nor is it streamed anywhere. It's just gone, which is a shame. It's a good album.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a neat little Beatles connection there, too. So now I've got some good news, is we're going back to California. We're going back to November 26th, 1991, San Bernardino, and we're going to be talking about Garth Brooks. So here we go.
Here we are in sunny, and I do mean sunny, San Bernardino in California. Tony, quick question. I don't see it on you, but did you not bring a cowboy hat? Did you not get my email?
Well, you know what, Aaron? A cowboy hat is not my best look, so I decided not to go for it.
I will be the judge of that. I think you would look smashing in a good old 10-gallon black cowboy hat.
Well, you know what? If you added the chaps, I think it would be perfect. But
oh, dear. Tony, why are we here in San Bernardino?
Well, we're here to talk about Garth Brooks, and Garth Brooks is a noted philanthropist, and he lends his fame to a variety of causes. But this is a great one, you know. He was trying to help get a food drive going, and he asked fans for a grocery store in San Bernardino to bring 10 cans of food to this grocery store in exchange for a lottery envelope. And some of those envelopes contained tickets to see Garth at a forthcoming show. And they ended up, this is incredible, over 10,000 cans were donated to charity. 8,000 pounds of food was donated. And it took me forever, Aaron, to research this story. I remember I was telling you that. But I finally found it. It was a station called KFRG Radio. They're also known as K-Frog in San Bernardino. And they worked with Garth Brooks to get this food drive going and to get this lottery going with the tickets. And 8,000 pounds of food donated. So pretty amazing. But Garth Brooks really came up and delivered.
Now, I'm curious. Before I started researching this show, I wasn't aware of all the charitable stuff that this man does. It's pretty overwhelming, you know?
It is. And I think he's a lot like Alice Cooper in that way, that he just does it. He doesn't expect anything in return. I think he realizes he's got a platform and a voice, and he uses it.
For example, yeah, you look at he did concerts, 5 and live in LA benefit concerts, 5 sold out concerts, 5 over a 2-day period at the Staples Center in Los Angeles in January 25th and 26th of 2008, setting numerous records at the high profile venue in the process. And he raised all this money for fire intervention relief efforts and for the wildfires in 2007. And actually one of the concerts was broadcast live on TV as a telethon. I missed that one, but that's pretty incredible, don't you think? And the tickets weren't that expensive, $40 each.
No, $40 each, and all 5 shows. So they ended up selling 85,000 tickets, more than 85,000, sold out in less than an hour, but that was the kind of draw that Garth Brooks was. Like, do you remember that in the 90s? I mean, there was nobody bigger, I don't think.
Well, okay, Beatle connection. He's second to the Beatles in selling the most records in the United States.
Oh, wow. That doesn't shock me at all.
Yeah, he's behind them by about 20 million, but he was, I don't think people can remember how massive this guy was in the early 90s, for most of the decade, actually.
Oh, for sure. And has stuck around, I mean, he's certainly not as popular now, but not afraid either to court controversy, right? Because in 1999, there was an interview where he said, because country music sometimes can appeal to more traditionalists, right, in terms of their religious views. And Garth had this quote. He says, "If you're in love, you've got to follow your heart and trust that God will explain to us why we sometimes fall in love with people of the same sex. No problem with that at all." And, good for him for saying that, especially, 1999. You still couldn't say a lot of things back then. I mean, I think 1999 was still don't ask, don't tell in the American military, wasn't it?
Very much. And what's even for a country artist, he did a concert, an Equality Rocks benefit concert for gay rights, and he sang a duet with George Michael.
Oh, fantastic.
I mean,
and
amazing.
I love that song of his called "We Shall Be Free." And, a lot of people say that song had a thinly veiled reference to same-sex relationships. It had that line, when we're free to love anyone we choose, right? And he won, GLAAD Media must be some kind of, I don't know what GLAAD stands for, GLAAD, but must be some kind of LGBTQ rights type organization. But he won an award for that song, and very, very big humanitarian. So neat to talk about him today.
Yeah, we never talked about a lot of the big country artists from the 90s. I mean, this is when country also was coming into its own. I mean, we're talking, Johnny Cash's name in Whalen, but 90s country hit big, right? It was massive. The Travis Tritt, Randy Travis, so many that were just massive.
Well, that's right. And a lot of that country from that time, I mean, was basically rockabilly, right? And it peaked around 1994. I remember those days very clearly, but I remember buying country CDs, to be honest.
Who did you buy?
Well, I bought Garth Brooks for sure. I've got a bunch of his albums. I've got a Reba McEntire album, a guy named David Lee Murphy. Who's the other one? Alan Jackson. I've got a couple of his. I mean, we were listening to that stuff, it was just so popular, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's funny because here's this for a segue. You just mentioned Reba McEntire. She was in the top 5 that week. So, yeah, I mean, it also got played on pop radio too, right? You'd hear Garth Brooks on regular top 40 radio.
Oh, you would. Country. And you remember he covered the Billy Joel song, right? What was the name of that song that he covered? I can't remember it now, but put it on the Spotify playlist if you can. Garth's cover of that Shameless. Do you remember that? The Garth cover of that?
Interesting story is that none of Garth's music is on Spotify.
Oh, did he not give them the rights to it?
No. So the only stuff that's on Spotify is the stuff he did with his wife, Trisha Yearwood, and the one you mentioned before about being free. They're on there, but nothing else is. Oh,
so maybe we can put the original by Billy Joel on there or something.
I think we can do that, yes.
Yeah, it's a great song. So I am guessing that you must have looked at... Oh, and by the way, did you notice? I remembered the charts. It's a third segment here, and I remembered the charts this week. So what did you pick for the charts?
I'm a bit disappointed because I had in the pool, I had that you weren't going to, so now I just lost 40 bucks. So I did the top 5 country albums, and you'll see why when I tell you the top 5 country albums. Number 5 was Garth Brooks with his first album, Garth Brooks, which by that point had been on for 132 weeks.
That's unbelievable. So
that's over 2 years, right?
Yep.
I failed math, folks, but Tony's a teacher, so he should know. Number 4 is Travis Tritt, It's About to Change. Number 3 is, you mentioned her already, Reba McEntire, For My Broken Heart. Number 2, Garth Brooks, No Fences, had been on the charts for 61 weeks and still number 2.
I've got it right here on the shelf.
And number 1 is one I have, Rope in the Wind.
Yeah, I've got that one too.
So out of the top 5, he had 3 of the top 5, which is close to, and the Beatles had 5 of the top 5.
Well, that's right.
But he didn't get the 5, the Beatles did.
But you remember, I mean, he had done that concert in Central Park for what, 1 million people?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Do you remember his bit of a bonehead move though? Chris Gaines.
Oh yeah, when he adopted that other persona, I never really
Chris Gaines, yeah.
Yeah, I never really understood that. It was some kind of experiment, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it failed. It was really, because it wasn't even close to country. It was almost bordering grunge, you know?
Yeah, it was very odd. I mean, well, good on him for trying, I guess. He just needed to branch out a little bit, but
can't fault the guy. You cannot fault the guy at all.
Nope, he is, and he's a hard worker. You know, I've heard that his concerts are fantastic, and I remember seeing footage of those shows from the 90s, and unbelievable. You know, just took big to a whole new level in those concerts.
Well, he was like in a sense, like a Bowie concert. He was flying around the auditorium, and yeah, it was pretty big.
Yeah, pretty incredible. Cool. Now, are you ready to head back to the present for our Memphis to Merseyside moment?
Oh, I'd love to. That would be awesome. Yes.
Yeah, I love that we introduced this segment last week. So here we go, back to 2021. Well, it's good to be home, but I sure do miss that California sunshine.
But you got a tan, though, because you know why? You didn't wear a cowboy hat and protect yourself.
Well, and I'm also Italian, Aaron. I go out for about 10 minutes and I'll get a tan, you know.
Fair enough.
So, since we talked about Elvis Presley last week on our Memphis to Merseyside segment, let's talk about what the Beatles were up to. And you found a pretty neat one this week.
Yeah, I thought we were talking about musicians doing for others. I thought this was interesting that in November 25th, 1965, the department store Harrods closed its door to the public for 3 hours. Now, Harrods, I don't know if you've ever been there. I've been to in London. I've been to it. It's massive. Great food there. Great food. So they closed for 3 hours so that the Beatles could finish their Christmas shopping.
Wow. Can you imagine?
That isn't the cutest thing you've ever heard, right?
Yeah, that is amazing. And can you imagine the fans outside, you know, trying to peek in the windows? I can just totally visualize it now. It must have been mayhem outside.
Absolutely, yeah. No question in my mind. But, you know, the fact that they had to, 65, I think, they had done Shea Stadium. They were massive. 65 was kind of their peak year in terms of the hysteria. There was no way they could, and listen, this is before there was shopping online. You know, what are you going to do? You have to close the store. Because the Beatles, you know that every year the Beatles would send out a free record to their fan club, right? They would record a Christmas message.
Yeah.
They liked Christmas. So this was, they wanted to get into a store and do some Christmas shopping.
Now, what do you think they bought, though? I wonder. I'd love to see the list of what they purchased, you know?
Well, this is it. This is why I want to be the checkout. Oh, look at Paul bought. And then I would love to see that they actually competed. Well, George bought this. And John spent this much, you know what I mean? Like, it'd be so funny.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. What a story if you were one of the clerks that day. Like, you'd take that with you forever.
And the number one single at the time in England and North America would have been We Can Work It Out, Day Tripper, right? So.
Oh, wow. Which, Day Tripper, did I tell you? Well, I always mention this because Rick and I do an excellent version of Day Tripper in our live set, actually.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and you know, we were just fooling around one day. Rick started playing the riff for Day Tripper, and I just came in and kind of jammed on it, and we thought, we really got to do this in a show. It sounds so good. So we have this very cool version of Day Tripper that we do.
So what do you play in it? What instrument are you playing?
Well, when Rick and I do 95% of our gigs, I'm playing a clarinet because we're like a guitar and clarinet kind of Paris 1930s type of sound, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's great for small rooms and very, very relaxed. But it's such a neat version of Day Tripper. It's smooth, 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 like a fresh jar of Skippy, as the song says.
Oh, very nice. I'd love to hear it. I would love to hear it.
Well, you know what? When you get up here for a gig, we'll do a whole Beatles little mini set just for you. How's that sound?
Would you do? I would like that very much.
And speaking of things that we love very much, well, how's that for a segue, my friend?
You win. You win. You absolutely win.
So speaking of things that we like very much, we really like our fans. In fact, we love our fans. And I think we should do what you did a few weeks ago and give personal shout outs to some of the people who are listening. So who should we shout out to today?
You know, I think we should give a shout out. I mean, all of our fans are terrific, and wow, where would we be without them? But Darren's always sharing our stuff, and he's always got a great comment, and he's very funny too. So yeah. I think we should give a shout out to Darren.
I think so too. So Darren, thanks for being such a great supporter of the show. And you know what? Darren looks like he'd be a great guy to hang out with, doesn't he?
Absolutely. And he's a very talented musician, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Very talented. Very talented. Yeah, he'd be great to hang out with. I think it would be one of those times where your sides would be hurting from laughing, you know?
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, here we are pulling up at your place, Aaron. So thanks, folks, for indulging us today and letting us into your headphones. And have a great week, my friend.
You too. All the best. Stay warm and stay safe.
You as well. Talk to you soon. Music for today's episode of the Wayback Music Machine podcast was written by Rick Denis. The show notes, chart selection, and Spotify playlist were created by Aaron Badgley.
And the artwork, recording, editing, and sound production was done by Tony Stewart. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to tell a friend or two. And don't forget to click follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast player to get the latest episodes automatically.
And we'd love it if you would leave us a review. You can also engage with the show by going on our website and leaving us a voicemail. We may even play your voicemail on an upcoming episode.
Thanks for taking this road trip with us, and we'll see you next time on the Wayback Music Machine podcast.
Hey, turn the radio up. I love this song. The Wayback Music Machine podcast is a Stewie Tunes production.